It's time for the AFC West. The Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, I think, are a fascinating team for a number of reasons because they finished the season very strong last year. They lost a lot of games last year that were very close in score. They lost a lot of one-score games. I think a lot of people look at them as a team on the rise, a team that could be a potential playoff team this year. The thing is, though, AFC West, very competitive. That's Mahomes' division. The Raiders are only getting better. Chargers may take a step back, losing their quarterback, but you never know. They're a very talented team as well. So it looks like they have the quarterback. Drew Lock, at least for this year, is your guy for the future. Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman you have handled at running back. That's a good combination. Tight end, I really like Noah Fant from what I saw last year. He's a great athlete, and I think that was a good pick. Then you have good depth at tight end as well. I don't think you're really looking there. I think offensive line is really first and foremost offensively where you want to target. Garrett Bowles in 2017 was a first-round pick. Hasn't really worked out to his full potential, but I don't think they're ready to move on quite yet at that position. Dalton Reisner was a second-round pick in 2019. I thought was a good pick. I think he'll be the starter again at left guard. Now, Connor Mcgovern is a free agent. They have the money to re-sign him if they so choose, but they might choose to move on for bigger needs, for more pressing needs than center. Because center, given the scheme, given the team, it's not a position that all teams love to pay. And I could see the Broncos moving on from McGovern. He's the best free agent center on the market this year. I think a good low-cost guy that would fit the scheme very well would be Ben Garland from San Francisco, who plays in the exact same offense and I think would fit well there. Well, actually, they changed their offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur, but still very similar. Not exactly Kyle Shanahan-esque, but they run similar concepts, so I think Garland would work at center. But Karras is another option as well, who's less than McGovern, but still a good option, starting caliber center in free agency. Ronald Leary is going to be gone at right guard. Maybe they go after, Glasgow at guard, or maybe Tooney, but they have the money to do it if they wanted to. And but the thing is with the Broncos, they've been very into drafting offensive linemen. Juwan James, though, they signed at right tackle, which I thought they overpaid, but he's there nonetheless, and he's a starting caliber tackle. I think they could target guards. The thing is, though, I don't see a lot of great offensive linemen in free agency. And I think they're better off drafting them. But there are lower cost guys that you could bring in than Ronald Leary, who was overpaid ever since you signed him from Dallas. So using that cap elsewhere would be a good idea. Now, defensively is where I'm very intrigued by Denver's free agency, because I think this is really where they're going to spend their money in free agency. Their entire defensive line, their entire starting defensive line are free agents. You're talking about Shelby Harris, Derek Wolfe. These guys are all free agents. I think Derek Wolfe will be back. I think Shelby Harris will be gone. I think Derek Wolfe wants to play for Denver, and I think he will be back. And he's kind of getting up there in age, so I don't think he'll cost a ton. But Shelby Harris, I think, is going to cost too much. And the reason why I say he'll cost too much is because Shelby Harris doesn't play a lot of snaps. He's a big guy. He's more of a run defender than anything else. And he plays like 60% of the snaps. And I'm not willing to pay a nose tackle $12 million, $10 to $12 million to only play 60% of the snaps in my defense. Maybe he plays more elsewhere, so that's why you pay him more. He's a good player. I would rather spend it, if I'm spending money, big money on a defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, I'm going after DJ Reader. I'm going after Javon Hargrave. These guys I feel like are better than Shelby Harris, although both of those, Harris is good. I'm not trying to take anything away. But both these guys are more versatile. They can pass rush. They can stop the run. They can do a lot of things. And they could do more than Harris. And I think they're more worth their buck than Harris is, in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of other guys that you could sign as well. Michael Brockers, I think, fits this defense perfectly. I think Leonard Williams fits this defense if you want to spend more money there. Danny Shelton's an interesting one for nose tackle. Who else? Onyemata, Covington, I think, could be interesting. Just looking at my top 25 for the defensive line. Billings from Cincinnati, maybe. He's a bigger guy. I'm thinking big beef, because that's what Denver likes and Fangio likes in his interior defensive line. Regardless, though, this is a position that Fangio typically gets the best out of. So honestly, if I was Denver, I'd sign maybe one big name or one guy to a lot of money on this defensive line. But I'd rely on Fangio to be able to coach up guys that you think have potential or draft picks. Because he's good at scouting those type of players. He's good at getting the best out of those type of players. And I'd spend money elsewhere. You don't need to worry about edge because you have Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. You could add like a smaller name if you wanted to just for depth, which I don't think would be a bad idea because Chubb got hurt last year. But linebacker is the one that I think is fascinating because Fangio loves linebackers. He loves linebackers. Like everywhere he goes, he gets the best out of them, and he usually has good ones, right? So you're talking about San Francisco, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis. You're talking about Chicago. You're talking about a long lineage of linebackers playing at elite levels in his defense. So I could see Denver going after Littleton. I could see Denver going after Schobert. I could see Denver going after Campbell. I could see Denver going after Kwiatkowski, who was a linebacker for him in Chicago. Trevathan, who's a linebacker for him in Chicago. I think he'll only go after one, though, because I think he likes at least one of Josie Jewell and Josie Jewell and Todd Davis. So one of those guys will be starting an inside linebacker, but the other one I think will be an upgrade there at inside linebacker. Now, corner is fascinating because Chris Harris is gone. You brought in AJ Bouye from Jacksonville. He's going to be your number one guy on the outside. You have Kareem Jackson at strong safety, who can play a little corner if you like. Justin Simmons, big time priority. I assume he's going to be back probably by franchise tag and then a long-term deal after that. But he's a huge priority because he's an excellent player that I don't think gets enough recognition. Very good at free safety, but you have your safety combination there between Simmons and Jackson. And Jackson, like I said, can play corner at times. Bryce Callahan, I think you're looking to get better play out of him next year. And I think with a better pass rush, by having Chubb back, he'll play better just by virtue of that. But I could see them adding another corner in free agency if that's Amukamara, who used to play for Fangio in the past, or maybe a Roby or a Denard or a Waynes. One of these mid-tier type of guys I think would be a great add. But I think the Broncos are going to have a really good defense because I know they're going to spend money on defense in free agency. They still have the draft. I'm looking to see what they really do on offense past the defensive point to see how much potential it has. But with Sutton, with Lindsey, and with Fant, you have the foundational pieces. It's just about adding extra pieces around them. So I would not actually be surprised if they added another receiver. Even though there's not a lot in free agency, maybe a lower tier guy to add into the mix of Sutton and Hamilton. I don't think they have a lot of Patrick. I don't think they have a lot of great options there, but maybe you're looking to the draft because it's such a loaded draft class for wide receivers. So that's my opinion on the Broncos. Offensive line, defensive line, corner. Let's get it done, Broncos. Let's get back to the playoffs.